You're in a city you've never visited before. You turn a corner, and suddenly one face in the crowd hits you like a memory. You know this person, except you don't. Or you walk into a room for the first time and feel a tiny shiver of recognition. You've never seen it. And yet something in your brain whispers, "You've been here." We call it déjà vu. Familiar strangers. Psychologists call it something else. A conflict inside your brain between what you feel and what you know. Understanding that conflict tells you something unsettling. A lot of your life is not happening in reality. It's happening in the simulations your brain is constantly running, without your permission. For a long time, people treated déjà vu and familiar strangers like glitches. Proof that memory is broken, that your brain is failing. Modern research says the opposite. Déjà vu is not remembering a past life. It's not a prophecy. It's not the universe sending you a message. It's your brain doing a fact check. It's a moment where one part of your mind says, "This is familiar," and another part says, "No, it's not." That clash between feeling and reality is what makes the experience so uncanny, and why familiar strangers feel like they've stepped out of a story you don't remember writing. We call it déjà vu. Familiar strangers. Psychologists call it something else, a conflict inside your brain between what you feel and what you know. Understanding that conflict tells you something unsettling. A lot of your life is not happening in reality. It's happening in the simulations your brain is constantly running, without your permission. Psychologist Akira O'Connor describes déjà vu like this: a moment when the sensation of familiarity and the awareness that it's wrong collide. You stand in a doorway. You feel like you've done this exact thing, in this exact way before. You know you haven't. Brain imaging studies suggest something very specific is happening. Areas in the temporal lobe, regions that signal this feels familiar, fire as if you've seen the scene before. Frontal decision-making regions check the signal against your actual memories. They find no match. That mismatch is the moment you notice. Something inside me is saying yes, and something else is saying no. One large study of healthy people concluded that déjà vu likely reflects a mismatch between familiarity signals and monitoring processes, not brain damage. In other words, your brain is trying to stop you from misremembering. Déjà vu isn't a memory error. It's a sign that your internal fact-checker is awake. So where does that feeling of "I've seen this before" come from? Deep in the medial temporal lobe sits the perirhinal cortex, a region strongly involved in signaling familiarity. When you see an object or a face, neurons here help decide, have we seen this before? Experiments show that, when these neurons fire in one pattern, the brain tags something as novel. When they shift to another pattern, the same thing starts to feel familiar. Novelty and familiarity are not different systems. They are different modes of the same cells. Now add another layer. Researchers studying recognition memory talk about recognition without identification. You see a man in a grocery store. You know he is familiar. You cannot say why or from where. Your brain has successfully registered that this face pattern has been seen before. It has not successfully attached a story to it. That gap, familiarity without narrative, is where familiar strangers live. There's a reason the phenomenon is strongest in unfamiliar places. You go to another country, different language, different architecture, different noise. Everything in your environment is new. Your brain doesn't like that. Studies show that we prefer familiar stimuli. Familiar faces look happier to us, feel safer, and are easier to process. In a new environment, your brain quietly starts scanning for patterns it recognizes, including faces. Psychologists call one version of this the familiar stranger effect. Your social brain is under stress. Your threat detection systems are on high alert. Your need for connection, social homeostasis, is pushing you to find something that feels safe. So your facial recognition system becomes more sensitive. It starts producing more false positives. You see someone whose features roughly match a template of a person you know, or a composite of several people. Your brain errs on the side of close enough. It's not magic, it's a survival strategy. If a face hasn't killed you the last time you saw it, it's probably safe to approach now. Your brain likes familiar things because, statistically, they haven't eaten you yet. In a foreign crowd, recognizing someone who doesn't actually exist in your life is a way of making the environment feel less hostile, even if the recognition is wrong. Déjà vu is not the only trick your familiarity system plays. There's also jamais vu, the opposite. A word you've written 100 times suddenly looks wrong. Your own street feels alien. Your hand looks like it belongs to someone else. Research suggests jamais vu may act as a kind of warning signal, a sign that something has become too automatic, too repetitive. Under repetition, the brain can saturate a representation until it loses meaning. Jamais vu forces you to exit autopilot and pay attention again. Put these together. Déjà vu, reality is new, but familiarity fires. Jamais vu, reality is old, but familiarity shuts off. Both are your brain checking reality, not failing to represent it. Modern cognitive science increasingly sees the brain as a prediction machine. Its job is not just to record the present. Its job is to constantly predict the next millisecond, the next step, the next interaction. Familiarity is one of its shortcuts. If your brain can match the current scene to a known pattern, it saves energy. Processing is smoother. Things feel safer. But those shortcuts come with side effects. Sometimes your brain predicts familiarity where there is none. Sometimes it suppresses familiarity where there is too much. Sometimes it mixes memory and prediction, and you can't tell which one you're experiencing. Déjà vu is what it feels like when your internal prediction engine runs slightly ahead of the story, and your fact checker catches it. Familiar strangers are what it feels like when your social prediction engine tries to keep you safe and connected in a place where you have no real anchors. Your brain is not trying to tell you the future. It's trying to keep you from getting lost. There is one more layer to this. If your brain can make a stranger feel familiar, and make a familiar place feel strange, then how much of your everyday life is actually the present? How much is past templates being projected forward? Future possibilities being folded into now? False positives of safety in places that aren't safe? False negatives of danger in places that are? The unsettling part is not that you sometimes misrecognize a face. It's that your brain is always quietly deciding what counts as familiar, long before you're aware of it. This means the feeling, I know this person, and the feeling, I've been here before, are not facts. They are hypotheses your brain is testing in real time. Sometimes those hypotheses are right. Sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes they're there just to make you less afraid. The question is not, have I lived this moment before? The question is, how much of this moment is real? And how much is my brain quietly trying to make reality easier to bear? We've just spent an episode on a strange feeling your brain invents, familiarity without a story. Strangers who feel like people you know. Places that feel like memories you never made. There's another feeling your brain quietly manufactures. Not about people, about things. You've seen it in your living room, in your kitchen, in that slightly crooked shelf you assembled yourself at 2 in the morning. Objectively, it's worse than what a professional would have built. You know that. The paint isn't perfect. The screws aren't straight. And yet, you love it more than something objectively better. In 2012, 3 researchers, Michael Norton, Daniel Mocon, and Dan Ariely, ran a series of experiments with flat-pack furniture, Lego, and origami. They made one simple observation. People were willing to pay more for an IKEA box they had assembled themselves than for an identical box that came pre-assembled, even when their version was clearly worse. As long as they were allowed to finish the thing they were building, their valuation of it skyrocketed. If the experimenters took it apart or stopped them before the end, the effect vanished. They called it the IKEA effect, the bias that makes us overvalue whatever we've poured effort into. Not because it's good, but because we've put ourselves into it. Next time, we're going to take that feeling apart. Why labor leads to love. Why do it yourself makes you blind to flaws, and how companies, apps, and even AI systems quietly exploit this bias to make you fall in love with things you helped build. That is next.